The chilly wind swept through the crowded streets of Chicago, carrying the sound of car horns, laughter, and a faint melody that made people stop in their tracks. On the corner of Michigan Avenue, a 14-year-old girl sat beside an old, cracked keyboard. Her fingers moved with precision, coaxing out notes so pure they seemed to float above the chaos of the city. She was small, dressed in a faded hoodie 2 sizes too big, her hair tucked under a knit cap. Beside her was a cardboard sign, written in careful letters, "Playing for food." Most people walked past. Some tossed coins without looking. A few recorded her on their phones, whispering, "She's good, too good to be on the street." But no one knew the truth about the girl called Naomi Brooks. Not yet. A businessman stopped near her, holding a coffee cup. "Where did you learn to play like that?" he asked. Naomi looked up, her brown eyes steady. "From my mom," she said softly. "She used to say music was our prayer when words didn't work anymore." The man smiled awkwardly, dropped a $5 bill in her box, and left. But standing a few feet away was someone who didn't walk away. A woman named Rachel Harper, a documentary filmmaker searching for her next story. She had been filming a short project about homelessness in America when she heard Naomi's music. Something about the girl's posture, calm, composed, completely lost in her performance, made Rachel lower her camera and simply listen. When Naomi finished the song, the small crowd clapped. A few even cheered. Rachel approached quietly. "Do you mind if I record you?" she asked. Naomi hesitated, then nodded. "Sure, but I don't sound good on bad days." Rachel smiled. "I think today's a good one." Over the next few days, Rachel returned every afternoon. She filmed Naomi playing everything from Bach to Stevie Wonder on that battered keyboard with 3 missing keys. Each performance drew larger crowds. Commuters stopped, children danced, and strangers cried. Within a week, Rachel posted a short clip online titled, "Homeless Teen Plays Piano Like an Angel." By morning, it had over 4 million views. Comments flooded in. "She's unbelievable. Why is this girl on the street? Someone get her a scholarship." Local news stations began searching for her, but Naomi wasn't easy to find. Every night she moved to a different shelter, sometimes sleeping in subway stations to avoid trouble. When reporters finally caught up with her, Naomi looked overwhelmed. "I didn't do it for fame," she said shyly. "I just wanted people to remember that we exist." But what no one knew was that Naomi's past hid a story far deeper, one that connected her to one of the most respected names in American music. 2 days after the video went viral, Rachel took Naomi to a real piano studio to record properly. When Naomi sat before the grand piano, a gleaming Steinway identical to the one she'd only ever seen in pictures, she froze. Her hands trembled, but the moment her fingers touched the keys, something inside her changed. The music poured out like a river breaking through a dam. Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major, played with a grace and emotional depth that left Rachel speechless. When the final note faded, Rachel whispered, "Naomi, where did you really learn this?" Naomi smiled sadly. "From my grandfather," she said, "before they took our house." Rachel blinked. "Your grandfather?" Naomi nodded. "His name was Harold Brooks. He used to play for the Chicago Symphony before he got sick. But when he died, everything disappeared. The piano, the house, even the music lessons. Mom tried to keep me in school, but after she passed, I just kept playing in my head." Rachel froze. Harold Brooks, the Harold Brooks, was a legend. A jazz classical crossover pianist celebrated in the 1980s for breaking racial barriers in orchestral music. His records were still studied in conservatories across the country, and his granddaughter was now playing on the street. The clip of Naomi's studio performance hit the internet like wildfire. Millions watched, not just for her talent but for her story, a living link to a forgotten musical legacy silenced by poverty and prejudice. The Chicago Tribune ran the headline, "Homeless Girl Revealed as Granddaughter of Legendary Pianist Harold Brooks." Donations poured in, offers from music schools arrived by the dozen, but Naomi's reaction surprised everyone. "I'm grateful," she said during an interview, "but I don't want pity. I want change. There are hundreds of kids just like me, gifted but invisible, because they were born on the wrong side of the city." Her words sparked a movement. 3 weeks later, Naomi was invited to perform at a charity gala for the city's Department of Cultural Affairs, the same department that had once refused to fund her grandfather's community music project decades earlier. When Naomi arrived, dressed in a simple black gown donated by a local store, the audience barely recognized her. Cameras flashed. The mayor himself introduced her as a symbol of resilience and talent beyond circumstance. But Naomi didn't play for them. She played for her mother, for her grandfather, and for every child sleeping in a shelter that night. The piece she chose wasn't one of her grandfather's compositions or a classical showpiece. It was her own, a haunting blend of gospel, jazz, and Chopin that left the entire room in tears. When she finished, there was silence, then a standing ovation that lasted nearly 5 minutes. The performance was broadcast live. Within 24 hours, 20 million people had watched it online. The world had found not just a prodigy, but a reminder that greatness can bloom anywhere, even in the cold corners of a forgotten street. Months later, Naomi stood backstage at Carnegie Hall, the youngest pianist ever invited to perform at the New Voices Gala. As the lights dimmed, she whispered to herself the words her mother once told her, "Play for those who can't be heard." When she walked onto the stage, the audience rose to their feet. Somewhere in the front row, Rachel Harper wiped a tear. The girl she found on a Chicago sidewalk was now standing on one of the greatest stages in the world. And when Naomi began to play, the first soft notes drifted through the hall, the same melody she had played for food, now echoing through marble and crystal, broadcast to millions watching across the world. That night, Naomi didn't just make music. She made history. If this story touched your heart, remember, talent has no address, and greatness needs no permission. Subscribe for more true stories that prove hope can rise from the coldest streets and the humblest hearts.